one thing he takes great issue with is the idea of the legacy of slavery as being the reason for all sorts of pathologies among the American black community. And he says there are two sides to this. One is that this idea is kind of misused, not only by people trying to blame America and blame everybody, but also by people who are, I don't know, it's a white supremacist or something like that, who are anti-black racists. And both of them are wrong, because what he points out is actually at the late 19th and early 20th century, black labor participation was higher than whites. Rates of marriage at certain points were higher than among whites. Then it all flips, and by the end of the 20th century, you see these crazy statistics where 3/4 of black children are born out of wedlock. And partisans, ideologues on both sides want to blame these sort of either biological factors or whatever, or the legacy of slavery. And he's saying, no, it's a little simpler than that, guys. There's culture, and culture can change. And you can't go around blaming everybody for this. You should take discrete actions to fix it.
I don't know if it's simpler. It's interesting because the way I look at it is actually harder. And the reason it's harder is because it requires an individual to act and to have the knowledge enough to act. It's harder than blaming the system.
You're right.
And blaming somebody else in the groups or the environment that you grew up in. It is much harder to recognize at that moment that maybe I didn't make the best choice, or maybe the choices that I made put me in a situation where my life's going to be harder. And one of the moments that was most spectacular for me was recognizing when I was working with women and children experiencing homelessness, how many of them did not recognize that they were making a choice by having more than one child out of wedlock. For them, it was life acting upon them, that they were controlled by their environment. And when those moments arose in them, when they recognized they could actually make a choice that was different, that they didn't have to have the fourth or the fifth, and in some cases, seventh baby out of wedlock, they would have that moment they realized, oh, that is a choice. And if I choose differently, I can actually position myself differently so that I can have success in my life. Those were the moments, and I'm not a crier where I would cry, because you would recognize that awareness was going to make the difference in their life. They could respond, not react. They could do things of intention that would change their lives. And they weren't waiting for the entire system around them to change.
Right.
They knew that they could have the power to make that difference themselves. But it's hard to get people to go there because it feels judgmental. It feels judgmental to express that to someone when they've already made enough bad choices that maybe it's going to be harder for them to turn things around.
Right.
It feels judgmental to tell that to someone for whom that may be part of the culture, right? They grew up in generations of single motherhood. And so how do you communicate that without judgment? But you say, these are choices, these are values, this is a mindset you can have that really does position you for success. And we see it all the time. We see it in the Thomas Sowell. As an individual. We see it in the Condoleezza Rices of the world, right? That they come from these experiences and they were taught and given the mindset that made it possible for them to make different choices that set them up for success.